You may ask me, yeah, but like we hear about the ethics and the morals of the Prophet ﷺ all the time. What is the relationship between this and the civilization? Remember the poet that I told you last time, one of the most famous poets. He said this poetry, إنما الأمم الأخلاق ما بقيت فإنهم ذهبت أخلاقهم ذهبوا. Indeed, civilizations would last as long as their morals continue to last. If their morals vanish, they immediately shall vanish. Here the Prophet ﷺ is talking about civilizations, right? So the most important thing when it comes to civilizations is how people deal with each other, how people treat each other, how do people interact with each other. And this is where today our goal would be to look at the most detailed way of how the Prophet ﷺ did deal with people. How did the Prophet ﷺ handle himself? How did the Prophet ﷺ dealt with younger generation? How did the Prophet ﷺ dealt with women? How did the Prophet ﷺ dealt with elders? And so on and so forth. Right? So we start here. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Holy Quran how the prophetic kind of etiquette, or a synopsis of the prophetic etiquette, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. It's through the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did throw in your heart that you became soft to them, talking about the companions. And had you been rigid-hearted, they would have dispersed away from you. So the key of the control of the Prophet ﷺ over the companions, it's not because he was the most robust man. It's not because he was commanding them and they had to follow. No. They followed him out of love first and foremost, because he was the softest man. He had this highest morals in a way that no one can actually tell the Prophet ﷺ no, let alone the fact that they used to love him more than they used to love themselves, more than they used to love their children, more than they used to love anyone. But more importantly, Allah tells him, alayhi salatu wasalam, وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ لَانفَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also talking about the khuluq of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him in Surah Al-Qalam, نون والقلم وما يسطرون ما أنت بنعمة ربك بمجنون وإن لك لأجرا غير ممنون وإنك لعلى خلق عظيم. وإنك لعلى خلق عظيم. What do we mean وإنك لعلى خلق عظيم? What does it mean? What does it mean, Kareem? وإنك لعلى خلق عظيم. You وإنك, you indeed, على خلق, you had the highest morals. عظيم, the greatest moral. خلق is the moral. وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. That's the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So who did praise the etiquette and the morals of the Prophet ﷺ? Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who did praise the etiquette of the Prophet ﷺ and the morals of the Prophet ﷺ. لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْهِ مَا عَنِتُّمْ حَرِيصٌ عَلَيْكُمْ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ فَإِنْ تَوَلَّوْا فَقُلْ حَسْبِيَ اللَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا هُوَ. Indeed, you have been sent a messenger from amongst yourself. He feels for you whenever you are facing any hardship. And he always cares about you. حَرِيصٌ عَلَيْكُمْ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. And he is always feeling mercy upon you. He is always giving you excuses. He is Ra'uf, Rahim. And most importantly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Anbiya addresses the Prophet ﷺ telling him, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ صلى الله على محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. And we haven't sent you except mercy to mankind. When we say mankind, what do we mean? When we say mankind, what do we mean by mankind? Everyone from Adam all the way till the day of judgment. But here, did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say mankind? No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say mankind. Say al-alameen. Al-alameen means ins and jinn, both of them. From Adam all the way till the day of judgment. So, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu tells us, and I want you to pay attention because today we will go through lots of ahadith. Okay? And we will question later on. We will quiz you. Every few minutes we will quiz you. Okay? Sisters also. So, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu says that the Prophet ﷺ was told, O Messenger of Allah, make dua upon the disbelievers. Make dua against them. So, the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنِّي لَمْ أُبْعَثُ لَعَانًا وَإِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ رَحْمًا. I haven't been, the Prophet ﷺ responded, I haven't been sent as a curser, a person who is to curse all the time. But I have been indeed sent as mercy. Sallallahu alaihi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So, the Prophet ﷺ, whenever a person, a poor person would come and ask him, or a person who has a need, who would come and ask him for a need, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Ishfa'u tu'jaru wa yaqdi Allahu ala lisani rasulihi ma yasha." So, the Prophet ﷺ, whenever he came, whenever anyone that did have any mas'ala, anything any need that he would ask the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ would actually address his need right away and would actually give him whatever he wants or helps him in whatever he wants. So, عن أنس رضي الله عنه قال كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من أحسن الناس خلقا فأرسلني يوما لحاجة فقلت والله لا أذهب وفي نفسي أن أذهب لما أمرني به. قال فخرجت حتى مر علي صبيان وهم يلعبون في السوق فإذا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قابض بقفاي من ورائي فنظرت إليه وهو يضحك فقال يا أنيس اذهب حيث أمرتك. قلت نعم أنا ذاهب يا رسول الله. Anas radiallahu anhu. You know, who was the servant of the Prophet ﷺ? Anas radiallahu anhu. Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu. So Anas ibn Malik used to spend lots of time with the Prophet ﷺ because he used to be his servant. So one time Anas wanted to check how the Prophet ﷺ would respond if he disobeys him. Although in himself, Anas is the one who is telling us this story, he is saying, the Prophet ﷺ ordered me to do something. And I said, Wallahi, I wouldn't do it. Like the Prophet ﷺ told him, go Anas, do something for me. And he said, Wallahi, I wouldn't do it. Like that's with his tongue. However, internally he said, I swear by Allah that I will obey the Prophet ﷺ. So Anas tells us the story. I went outside and I found some kids playing. So I'll tell Kareem, for example, Kareem, go get me something. So he gets busy with kids playing with or Zaid, like not Kareem, like kids playing at the playground. Similarly, Anas was kind of busy with the kids playing. What did the Prophet ﷺ do? What do you think the Prophet ﷺ would do in something like this? Take a guess. What did he do? Anas, like, apparently, he disobeyed the Prophet ﷺ. So, what did the Prophet ﷺ would do? He wouldn't ground him? Zaid, right? Zaid? No. What's your name? Huh? Alim. What would the Prophet ﷺ do in this situation? You went to call him a few times, but he was playing outside. Remind me of your name. Huh? Ata'ullah. What did the Prophet ﷺ do? Huh? He forgave him, but he did disobey him apparently. So, do you think that he would forgive him? Yeah. So the Prophet ﷺ went outside, and first of all, he was smiling. He was smiling, the Prophet ﷺ. And he actually held him from his neck. And he told him, Ya Unais. He's actually telling him a nickname. Like if I'm telling Kareem, or whatever nickname they will tell you. In Egypt, they would say Cookie. Any nickname that they would tell you. Oh, Kareem or Quraim. Actually, the Prophet ﷺ here gave him a nickname. Typically in the Arab world, or like in Arabic, when we say Unais, Anas, Unais. Unais means like the smaller version of Anas, right? So that's a way of actually calling someone a nickname that he would love, right? So he told him while smiling, Ya Unais, idhab haythu amartuk. Oh Unais, go where I told you to go. So he said, oh, I will go, O Messenger of Allah. Very simple. How many times, and I'm a father, so how many times like our kids wouldn't do whatever we want, and then we would say, like we would actually, like some of us can lose temper, or some of us can actually ground them, and so on and so forth. The Prophet ﷺ, and that's not his kid, that's his servant, and the Prophet ﷺ never did this. Anas also tells us, والله لقد خدمته 9 سنين ما علمته قال لشيء صنعته لما فعلت كذا وكذا أو لشيء تركته هلا فعلت كذا وكذا. And this is narrated by Imam Muslim. Also Anas says, I swear by Allah, I served the Prophet ﷺ 9 years. So Anas, how many years did Anas serve the Prophet ﷺ? 9 years. So I swear by Allah, I did serve the Prophet ﷺ 9 years. I have never seen him for anything that I have done to tell me, why did you do this? Or for anything that I haven't done to tell me, why didn't you do this? Subhanallah. Alayhi salatu wasalam. Wa innaka la'ala khuluqin azim. Now, another hadith which is extremely important. The Prophet ﷺ tells us, and again, this is the etiquette, the overall etiquette of the Prophet ﷺ. أنا زعيم ببيت في ربض الجنة لمن ترك المراء وإن كان محقا وببيت في وسط الجنة لمن ترك الكذب وإن كان مازحا وببيت في أعلى الجنة لمن حسن خلقه. Okay, this is a very important hadith. The Prophet ﷺ tells us, I'm a leader in a house at the bottom part of Jannah. for a type of people. And I'm a leader for a house in the middle part of Jannah for another type of people. And I'm a leader, or I'm leading a group of people that would be sitting in a house in the upper part of Jannah, the highest part of Jannah, for a third group of people. Okay? So 3 groups of people. Which is the group that will go in the bottom part of Jannah? Not to say that like they can be elevated later on, but at least the point here is whoever does this, he would be at this house. Okay. The one at the bottom part of Jannah, the one who actually he is engaging in a debate, however, and he has the right. However, he leaves the debate. Not to go and waste time and not to be getting into the haphazard talking and maybe losing temper or making like earning sins or whatever it is, committing sins or whatever it is. So I am engaging in a debate with Alim or with Karim, and I have the right, and I'm actually winning in that debate. However, I stop the debate. I don't want to keep debating because it's better to bring the hearts closer to each other rather than having the hearts kind of distant from each other through the debate, because of the debate, right? So that's number 1. Number 2, the house in the middle of the Jannah. The house in the middle of the Jannah, for that person who is never lying, even if he is joking. Is it haram to make a joke in a lie or not? So if I'm lying right now and I'm kind of making a joke while lying, is this permissible or not permissible? It's not permissible. Because the Prophet ﷺ told us clearly that we should not do this. And the house in the upper part of Jannah is for what? For those people who have perfected their morals, right? So, bottom part of Jannah, what is the group for the bottom part of Jannah? Who left the debate while they have the right. Perfect. Good job, sisters. Middle part of Jannah? Who don't lie even if they are joking. Okay? And you, the top part. Top part is what? Alim. Perfecting manners. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Now, let's learn this hadith just to conclude this passage or this segment. The Prophet ﷺ used to say, Allahumma hdini li ahsan al-akhlaq. La yahdi li ahsaniha illa ant. واصرف عني سيئها لا يصرف عني سيئها إلا أنت لبيك وسعديك الخير كله في يديك والشر ليس إليك أنا بك وإليك تباركت وتعاليت. Okay, let's take this hadith passage by passage. اللهم اهدني لأحسن الأخلاق. Repeat. اللهم اهدني لأحسن الأخلاق. لا يهدي لأحسنها إلا أنت. اللهم اهدني لأحسن الأخلاق لا يهدي لأحسنها إلا أنت. Meaning, oh Allah, guide me to the best morals. No one shall guide to the best morals except you, oh Allah. واصرف عني سيئها. واصرف عني سيئها. لا يصرف عني سيئها إلا أنت. And protect me from the worst of morals, because no one who is capable of protecting from the worst of morals but you, oh Allah. Okay, so Allahumma اهدني لأحسن الأخلاق لا يهدي لأحسنها إلا أنت واصرف عني سيئها لا يصرف عني سيئها إلا أنت لبيك وسعديك. لبيك means like when do we say لبيك? In Hajj. In Hajj, labbaika means what? I'm coming, oh Allah, I'm coming quickly to answer the call, oh Allah. Labbaika wa sa'daik, right? So that's a term coming, meaning that I'm coming quickly, oh Allah, towards you. I'm coming for you to find me where you have ordered me, and so on. So labbaika wa sa'daik. Repeat. Labbaika wa sa'daik. الخير كله في يديك. الخير كله في يديك means you have all the goodness in your hands. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala owns all the goodness. والشر ليس إليك. والشر ليس إليك. And any evil doesn't belong to you, O Allah. Evil coming from us, not from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أنا بك وإليك. أنا بك وإليك. أنا بك وإليك. What does it mean, أنا بك وإليك? Me, بالله, وإلى الله. What does it mean? I'm worth nothing except by you, O Allah. And I'm returning back to you, O Allah. أنا بك وإليك. This is like one of the most eloquent passages. أنا بك وإليك. I am from you, O Allah, means like I am worth nothing but you, but like without you, O Allah. Like حسبي الله ونعم الوكيل, something like that. أنا بك وإليك تباركت وتعاليت. You are elevated, O Allah, and glorified. Okay, so it's a hadith, inshallah, that we can remember in order for us to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the best morals. Now, talking about now specific morals of the Prophet ﷺ. Let's take them one at a time, inshallah. So, humbleness, modesty, humbleness. Let's start with humbleness. The Prophet ﷺ, like that's narrated by Al-Bukhari, that Aisha radiallahu anha was asked about the Prophet ﷺ. ما كان يصنع في أهله? What did the Prophet ﷺ do when he used to be with his family? What did when he used to be with his wives and so on? Our mother Aisha said, كان في مهنة أهله فإذا حضرت الصلاة قام إلى الصلاة. كان في مهنة أهله means he used to be always what? Helping his family, helping his wives. The Prophet, I just want you to imagine, we are talking here about the Messenger of Allah, the leader of the entire community, the entire Muslim nation that was then like a whole country, and whenever any person that would have any trouble, he would come and ask the Prophet, let alone the fact that he is receiving the revelation and he is going and fighting for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After all of this, the Prophet ﷺ is helping his wives. Helping his wives in cleaning, helping in his wives in stitching clothing, helping his wives in all of this. Is this even imaginable? Yes. Yes. And this is like, regardless, you are the top CEO, you are the most like eloquent billionaire, whatever it is, your Prophet ﷺ was definitely way more important. Your Prophet ﷺ was definitely way, like if you have shortage in time, the Prophet ﷺ used to have the least amount of possible time ever. Absolutely. But he used to be helping his wives. However, there is an exception. Is this all the time? No. فَإِذَا حَضَرَتِ الصَّلَاةِ قَامَ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ. Whenever there is a time of prayer, then he goes to pray. And in another narration, فَإِذَا حَضَرَتِ الصَّلَاةِ فَكَأَنَّهُ لَا يَعْرِفُنَا وَلَا نَعْرِفُ. If like the moment the time of prayer comes in, it's as if he switched as another person that we even don't know. He treats us as if like we don't know him or he doesn't know us. And this is again the importance of prayer. The importance that إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. That the Prophet ﷺ showed us how important it is to keep the prayer on time. Another hadith, Anas radiallahu anhu. And again, today we have lots of hadith by Anas. Why? Because he was a servant of the Prophet ﷺ. He spent a lot of time with him, naturally. So Anas radiallahu anhu, look at this hadith. الأمة كانت لا تأخذ بيد رسول الله فتنطلق به حيث شاءت. Alim, how old are you? 8? Okay. Imagine the Prophet ﷺ the leader, the prophet, the messenger, the one who is receiving the revelation and all of this. A 6-year-old girl, al-ama, like anywhere from 3-year-old to like 7, 8-year-old, right? Or a bit like even older, but definitely young. I'm talking about young girl. He used to take the hands of the Prophet ﷺ, فَتَنْطَلِقُ به حَيْثُ شَاءَتْ. So she would go with the Prophet ﷺ wherever she wants, and he would be with her. Imagine, I just want you to imagine the amount of the finest morals that you could ever see in a human being on earth. There is no human being that actually is like this. I just want you to, for the lack of a better example, the president of the US, the governor of Texas, any kind of highly qualified politician or so, or any kind of billionaire or someone that is extremely important and so on. Does this actually happen? That some random kid that he doesn't know, he would just come and take him and he would just follow him? Or follow her even, not him. And here, I mean, when talking about girls, this is an indication that he doesn't differentiate between boys and girls. And that's actually extremely important. So, the other كان النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يزور الأنصار ويسلم على صبيانهم ويمسح رؤوسهم. So the Prophet ﷺ used to be visiting Ansar. So now, who did migrate with the Prophet ﷺ? Al-Muhajirin. Al-Muhajirin are the ones who were from Mecca. So who were from Medina? Al-Ansar, right? Let me ask you, naturally, the Prophet ﷺ would be closer to Al-Muhajirin or to Al-Ansar? Al-Muhajirin, because that's his people. So that's like Al-Ansar is a different tribe altogether. He doesn't know them much, right? Like he is a newcomer. Like I was in California, for example, and I came here to Texas. I'm naturally a newcomer. I don't know everyone and so on. Now the Prophet ﷺ used to be visiting Al-Ansar. And here, look at the eloquence of the hadith, that it's not visiting Al-Muhajirin, but naturally he would be visiting Al-Muhajirin because these are his people. But the Prophet ﷺ used to be visiting Al-Ansar and making salam to their kids. So, is it a sunnah for you whenever you see a young kid to make salam to them? Absolutely. And don't ever say that, oh, I don't have time. No, go down and make salam to the kids, because your Prophet ﷺ used to be making salam to the kids. The man entered and he had Al-Hasan or Al-Hussein on his laps, ﷺ, أو كما قال يعني, or and he used to be kissing one of them. So a Bedouin entered to the Prophet ﷺ and he told him, are you kissing your kids? Do you kiss your kids? Oh, I swear by Allah that I have that many kids and I have never kissed any one of them. So the Prophet ﷺ told him, and وكما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام, it's what shall I do if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken mercy out of your heart? What shall I do? That's regular mercy, that we would be nice with kids and so on, soft with kids and whatnot. So that's the Prophet ﷺ. And again, that's an example of how the Prophet ﷺ used to be modest, used to be humble. So, and here is the other thing. Here is the other very interesting story. The Prophet ﷺ used to have a camel. Okay? And that camel used to always, whenever in any race, used to always win. Okay? That's a very interesting one. So, once a Bedouin came, Arabi جاء على قعود. Like he came on an actual camel, another camel. So, he was able to beat the camel of the Prophet ﷺ. So, Muslims didn't feel good about this. They used to be caring about the Prophet ﷺ, and they used to be genuinely loving the Prophet ﷺ. So, the Prophet ﷺ said, حق على الله حق على الله ألا يرتفع شيء من الدنيا إلا وضعه. This is very eloquent. It's almost like a wisdom. The Prophet ﷺ is saying, it's an obligation on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or it's a duty on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or it's kind of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordained that there is nothing that goes high in this life except when it goes low again. There is nothing that goes high except that it will go low. And actually, this is a very important wisdom. So the companions used to be are looking at it from the outer look. Right? Hey, like a camel, and a camel did actually got beaten, and so the Prophet ﷺ always is seizing the moment, seizing the opportunity to teach us the wisdom. And the wisdom here is, don't care about like the fact that you are beaten or you did beat. Because at the end of the day, you will beat today, you will be beaten tomorrow. That's how وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the days ups and downs in in a consequence, sequentially between people. So one day you are up, the other day he is down. Tomorrow it will be the reverse. You will be down and he is up. And that will be applicable to human beings, that would be applicable to nations, that would be applicable to civilizations, and so on and so forth. وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. Life is nothing but ups and downs. So that's the humbleness of the Prophet ﷺ. So what's an example of the humbleness of the Prophet ﷺ? Give me one example for the humbleness of the Prophet ﷺ. Yeah. I was pointing at him, but yeah, you say first and then him. Yeah, yeah. MashaAllah. Absolute. Yeah. What another example? For not obeying his orders. What else, Kareem? What else? Alim. He would be nice. Yeah, definitely. So the other thing, the Prophet ﷺ, he used to be going to the weak Muslims. يأتي ضعفاء المسلمين ويزورهم ويعود مرضاهم ويشهد جنائزهم. Okay. If I tell you the Prophet ﷺ, who used to be one of the wealthiest companions, tell me then one of the wealthiest companions. Abdurrahman ibn Auf, the other one that is so example, like a huge example in the wealth. Uthman ibn Affan, right? So if I tell you, like, who was the closest to, from a love standpoint, the closest to the heart of the Prophet ﷺ? Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, right? Okay. So if I tell you right now that the Prophet ﷺ used to be, whenever anyone sick in the house of Abu Bakr, then he used to be visiting them. Normal, right? Normal. That's like very normal. Similarly, whenever Uthman ibn Affan or Abdurrahman ibn Auf, like that's through the dunya way of managing things, or how things go in the dunya. someone that has a status, right? Uthman ibn Affan is someone that literally equipped a whole army based on his wealth. Do you imagine an army that's going for war? He is able to equip them based on his wealth. Jaysul Usra. Right? That's Uthman ibn Affan. So if I tell you that the Prophet ﷺ goes to visit Uthman ibn Affan, or whenever he is sick, he would go and actually would do Iyadat al-Marid with Uthman ibn Affan, okay, that's nothing wrong in that, and nothing kind of unrealistic or unbelievable in this. However, here, the Prophet ﷺ used to be visiting the weakest among the Muslims. So visiting them and visiting their sick and following their janais. Yani take the lowest person, the janitors. Take the lowest people in the society. If the Prophet ﷺ would take from his precious time and would go to visit them. And when we talk about visiting them, we're not talking about visiting them for a specific reason. We're just saying that he would go and visit them. Just visiting them for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's his morals. And this is how he did set the example, alayhi salatu wasalam. He would go and visit them. And not only that, like imagine how many times it happens that we are in the masjid and a janazah happens, and a janazah for someone maybe that we would know, but we wouldn't attend the janazah, or for whatever reason, like we would pray. However, we wouldn't go all the way to the cemetery. That's all the time, happens all the time. You have a meeting here and so on. Now, I'm not telling you the Prophet ﷺ, if like the son of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu did pass away and he didn't follow his janazah, or he did follow his janazah. No, I'm telling you the janazah of the weakest of the believers, the Prophet ﷺ would go and follow them. What type of etiquette are we talking about here? What is the finest etiquette that the Prophet ﷺ is exemplifying for us? Is giving us, is setting such a huge example for this. That's your Prophet ﷺ. And this is how Muslims did last their civilization for years and years. Because simply the light of the Prophet ﷺ, in light, like the etiquette of the Prophet ﷺ was preserved for years and years. This is what made our civilization that unique. The moment that we started to detach ourselves from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, this is where we started to decay as an ummah. Now, look at another angle. So now we did talk about humbleness. Let's switch gears. Talk about patience. Patience of the Prophet ﷺ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressing the Prophet ﷺ, telling him, وَاصْبِرْ وَمَا صَبْرُكَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ وَلَا تَحْزَنْ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا تَكُ فِي ضَيْقٍ مِّمَّا يَمْكُرُونَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ مُحْسِنُونَ. And be patient, and your patience is only by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, only through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And don't despair for the disbelievers. And don't actually feel sorry, feel sad for their plotting. Whatever they are plotting, don't feel sorry, don't feel sad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is sufficient for you. وَلَا تَكُ فِي ضَيْقٍ مِّمَّا يَمْكُرُونَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ مُحْسِنُونَ. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always with those people who are pious and watchful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and those who are perfecting their religion. So, Abi Abdul Rahman Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he said, كأني أنظر إلى رسول الله يحكي نبيا من الأنبياء صلوات الله وسلامه عليهم ضربه قومه فأدموه وهو يمسح الدم عن وجهه يقول اللهم اغفر لقومي فإنهم لا يعلمون. So Abdul Rahman, Abi Abdul Rahman, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, he said, it's as if I'm looking to the Prophet ﷺ, telling us the story of a prophet among the prophets. The Prophet ﷺ here, most probably talking about himself. But he didn't say that I'm talking about myself. So, but this is me telling you, the commentary that I'm saying. So, but here the hadith here is that Abdullah ibn Mas'ud tells us that I was looking at the Prophet ﷺ, telling us the story of one of the messengers, that his people did beat him, so he started to bleed. When did the Prophet ﷺ bleed? When actually he was hit by rocks. When? Ta'if, right? Remember? When he was at a Ta'if and like kids were throwing rocks at him to the extent that he started to bleed, alayhi salatu wasalam. What did happen by then? What did happen? Whose angel? Like which angel who came to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam? Jibreel and the angel of mountains. The angel of mountains came to the Prophet ﷺ. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the angel of mountains to the Prophet ﷺ, telling him, if you would like, I would just crush them with these two mountains. But the Prophet ﷺ rejected alayhi salatu wasalam. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. So the Prophet ﷺ tells a story that, and وهو يمسح الدم عن وجهه, and like he is actually removing blood out of his face and saying, اللهم اغفر لقومي فإنهم لا يعلمون. I like, oh Allah, forgive my people as they don't know, right? So here is another very interesting story. The Prophet ﷺ, عن أبي سعيد بن مالك ابن سنان الخدري, that people from Ansar, some people from Ansar, they asked the Prophet ﷺ, they asked him for money. So the Prophet ﷺ has given them. Then they asked him again. So the Prophet ﷺ has given them till he actually ran out of any money, anything to give them. Right? So then he told them by then, حين أنفق كل شيء بيده ما يكن من خير فلن أدخره عنكم. Like whatever good that I have in my hands, I will never keep it away from you. I will never reserve it and not give it to you. ومن يستعفف يعفه الله. And the one who actually doesn't ask people while he is in need, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will fulfill his need. ومن يستعفف يعفه الله. ومن يستغنى يغنيه الله. That like, and whoever that he would, although he is in need, he would pretend as if he is actually rich, he has enough, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would make him rich. Yani now we are talking about someone who is in need. So the first level here is he doesn't ask people while he is in need. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will actually make him not in need to ask people. Now, if he goes to the next level, that same person, if he is in need and he is actually letting people see that he's actually rich. Here we are not talking that someone is lying. Here we are talking that someone doesn't want to close the door, that I'm in need, but I'm not going to ask people, and not only that, I'm fine, I'm totally fine, and so on. Allah would make him rich. Subhanallah. وَمَنْ يَتَصَبَّرْ يُصَبِّرْهُ اللَّهُ. And whoever is actually forcing himself to become patient, Allah would make him patient. وَمَا أُعْطِيَ أَحَدٌ عَطَاءً خَيْرًا وَأَوْسَعَ مِنَ الصَّبْرِ. And there is no gift that anyone shall be gifted or anyone shall be given from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala better than patience. So again, here the Prophet ﷺ is telling them that you have to be patient. You have to stop asking people. If I have anything good, I will actually not keep it away from you. And more importantly, he is teaching them the wisdom. Now, look at this other now, his softness. Let's talk about the softness of the Prophet. Very, very well-known story that a man came, Arabi, a Bedouin, came to the Prophet. So he actually started to have number one in the masjid. So obviously in the masjid, like by that time, they didn't have restrooms like this. No. They used to go outside away from where people live, and they actually used to be getting their thing done and then returning back. Right? So here, a man, and again, the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ is nothing but a wall and sand. The masjid is sand, right? And maybe does have some like very, very rigid kind of jareed and so on, right? For them to actually make sujood on. So here, that man came in the masjid and he started to have number one. So what did the companions wanted to actually stop him. But the Prophet ﷺ did feel for the guy. He didn't know. So he told them, leave him alone. And then leave him till he finish. And then he told him, he went and addressed Al-Arabi, that Bedouin, إن المساجد لا تصلح لشيء من هذا البول والقذر إنما هي لذكر الله والصلاة وقراءة القرآن. So he told that man, he told him that masjids aren't built for bowel, urine, and so on, and any of the dirt. No, they are for prayer and the mentioning of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and reading the Quran. And then he told them, bring a bucket of water and then throw it on him. So what did the man say? The man said, Allahumma arhamni wa Muhammadan wa la tarham ma'ana ahada. Oh Allah, have mercy upon me and upon Muhammad, and don't have mercy on anyone else. Right? Why? Because who amongst this entire scene, who was the merciful upon him the most? The Prophet ﷺ. So he told him, لَقَدْ تَحَجَّرْتَ وَاسِعًا أَيْ ضَيَّقْتَ وَاسِعًا. So you have made something which is very vast. You made it very narrow. Why? The mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَرَحْمَتِي وَسِعَتْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. And the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is encompassing every shay, and everything. So why are you asking only for yourself and me? Ask for mercy for everyone, right? But the bottom line here is the Prophet ﷺ didn't want, even though the man is clearly committing a mistake, but he didn't want to stop him just to feel for him, just because of the fact that he didn't know, right? Another story. A group of Jews came to the Prophet ﷺ. And then when they entered, they said, Assalamu alaikum. So Assam in Arabic means al-maut. Assam, so not as-salam, Assam means al-maut. So this is, they are saying, rather than saying, peace be upon you, death be upon you. So our mother Aisha lost her temper. So she said, Bal alaykum as-sam wal la'na. So actually death is upon you and the curse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he told her, the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Aisha, Inna Allah yuhibbu al-rifqa fil amri kullih. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, oh Aisha, Allah does like the softness in the entire matter. They are coming to insult him. But he is saying Allah does love softness in the entire matter. So she told him, Alam tasma' ma qalu? Haven't you heard whatever they said? He said, yes, I heard. And I said, wa alaykum. and upon you. So here, alayhi salatu wasalam, he responded. They told him, Assalamu alaikum. He said like, and upon you as well. So, but I didn't actually curse them. So, because who knows, like maybe I heard them by mistake. So here the Prophet ﷺ is giving them the benefit of doubt. Maybe he heard it by mistake for whatever. So you told me, peace be upon you. So I respond, and death be upon you? No, I cannot. So you may have told me something bad. So I say, okay, and you have a similar, same to you. So here it's a mix of what? Mix of softness and wisdom. He didn't, because had he actually responded in a soft way, then someone would have said, oh, look at the weak messenger of the Muslims. No, the Prophet ﷺ didn't answer in a soft way. If you are coming to insult me, I'm responding in a wise way, but I'm still not getting to as low as you are. And that actually teaches us what? If someone that is losing his morals with you, do you lose your morals with him as well? No. أتبع السيئة الحسنة تمحوها. And like whenever someone would do something bad to you, you would do something good to him. Whenever something like, so you respond like with like you actually respond to the evil with the goodness. فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, if you do this, so like if someone is giving you something bad, doing something bad to you, so you respond with something good, فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة, then that person that you had animosity between you and him, he becomes what? He becomes as your great companion. Why? Because you were able, both wise and patient and soft, that you respond to evil with goodness. You respond to evil with what? With goodness. And then look at the Prophet ﷺ, again softness. The Prophet ﷺ says, and this is narrated by Bukhari, إني لأقوم إلى الصلاة وأريد أن أطول فيها فأسمع بكاء الصبي فأتجوز في صلاتي كراهية أن أشق على أمه. So the Prophet ﷺ says, I stand in prayer and I want to actually prolong the prayer, but I listen to what? I listen to the kid crying. So I shorten the prayer. Why? Because I'm feeling sorry. Like I'm afraid that he is actually hurting his mom. That his mom will be not feeling focused. He would be making it hard for her, because she is actually feeling that her son is praying and she cannot help him. Right? It's not because she is carrying him. It's because she would be feeling for the kid that would be crying, and because she is in a prayer, she wouldn't leave the prayer and actually go and check the kid crying. And that's again the sunnah here. We will see that sometimes in Taraweeh and so on, you will find that there are kids that would be crying. So for a long prayer like this, we shouldn't be bringing kids that are so small. However, for that case, it's either that the mom would get out of the prayer to handle her son, or like if it's a regular prayer, if it's not like a prayer where there is a khatm, for example, or so, if it's a regular prayer, then the imam is actually, based on the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, needs to be shortening the prayer. Now, another hadith talking about the mercy of the Prophet ﷺ. Again, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. Talking about the mercy of the Prophet ﷺ. So there was a bird that actually called Humra. It's a small bird. It's like a bird that is naturally small. So they were with the Prophet ﷺ, and this is narrated by Abdullah an Abi. So they were with the Prophet ﷺ. So the Prophet ﷺ went went to the restroom, and then they were actually together waiting for the Prophet ﷺ. So they saw that bird. So the bird did have two of his kids. So they actually took the two kids, two small birds from that mother bird. So that the mother came and started to make noise. When the Prophet ﷺ said, came back, he said, "Man faja'a hadihi biwaladiha? Ruddu waladaha ilayha." And this is narrated by Abu Dawood. So the Prophet ﷺ said, who actually made this mom feel extremely deprived of her kids, extremely slapped who took her kids away from her, returned her kids to her. So the Prophet ﷺ is feeling for the bird and actually ordering the Prophet, is it haram for them to take that bird? No, it's halal. It's not haram. But here the Prophet ﷺ, just because he is merciful, he is feeling for that bird, right? So, and then another aspect of the life of the Prophet ﷺ. He saw a man, and the man was about to slaughter a sheep. And then the man did actually was sharpening the knife in front of the sheep. So the Prophet ﷺ told him, لَقَدْ أَرَدْتَ أَن تُمِيتَهَا مَوْتَاتٍ هَلَا حَدَدْتَهَا قَبْلَ أَن تَضْجِعَهَا. So it's as if, do you want to let her pass away multiple times? It's as if you are slaughtering her multiple times. Why didn't you sharpen the knife before you actually put the sheep in the position where you are about to slaughter? And again, here, the idea here is you have to be soft, even if you are about to slaughter. And some people don't get this. Some people don't get the fact that we as Muslims, we are slaughtering and we have to slaughter and so on. And they don't get the understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the sheep, created the cow for them to actually give us meat. That's one of the purposes. So having slaughtering them as Allah ordered is the full mercy. That's the purpose that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created them for. However, being unmerciful while slaughtering them is not following the sunnah and not following the goal that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created them for. Allah didn't create them for you to torture them. So here, the Prophet ﷺ is telling them that you are torturing them. You are torturing the sheep. Right? So, the other aspect of the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and I'm ending here. So, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud told us that the Prophet ﷺ, and here we are talking about weeping of the Prophet ﷺ. Crying. The Prophet ﷺ crying. And this is actually counterintuitive. Some people would say that a man doesn't cry. That's not the case. Anyone can cry. And especially here you would see that the Prophet ﷺ did cry when listening to Quran, did cry when his son Ibrahim passed away. And a man, a third hadith, that he heard the Prophet ﷺ praying at night on his own and crying. But here, let me tell you the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud told us that the Prophet ﷺ told me, read Quran. So I responded to the Prophet ﷺ, I read Quran upon you and it was actually revealed on you. So the Prophet ﷺ told him, إِنِّي أُحِبُّ أَنْ أَسْمَعَهُ مِنْ غَيْرِي. I actually love to hear it from other people aside from me. The normal is that I recite Quran, but I like to hear it from you guys, like my companions. So I read Surah An-Nisa till the verse فَكَيْفَ إِذَا جِئْنَا مِنْ كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ بِشَهِيدٍ وَجِئْنَا بِكَ عَلَى هَؤُلَاءِ شَهِيدًا يومئذ يود الذين كفروا وعصوا الرسول لو تسوى بهم الأرض ولا يكتمون الله حديثا. So there is this verse in Surah An-Nisa that how about, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, فَكَيْفَ إِذَا جِئْنَا مِنْ كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ بِشَهِيدٍ. How about if we are bringing one delegate, one witness from every nation, and we have brought you, O Muhammad, peace be upon him, a witness upon all of those. So you understand, every nation would have their prophet, shaheed, upon them, witness upon them. And the Prophet, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, would be witness upon all of those. So the Prophet ﷺ by then told him, enough, hasbuk, enough. And then Abdullah ibn Mas'ud tells us, then I actually turned to look at the Prophet ﷺ, so his eyes are weeping. Because we are about time, we need to ask ourselves at the end, what is our role? When we hear all of this about the morals of the Prophet ﷺ, what is it that we are supposed to do? First and foremost, we need to follow the Prophet ﷺ. We need to be following the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ. We need to be leaving evil. We need to be lowering our voice. We need to be, whenever something bad that happens to us, we do something good in return. We need to be stopping to actually blame people. Why have you done this? Why have you done that? Because the Prophet ﷺ has never done this. Blaming anyone, whether it's like your student, your colleague, your child, your wife, your whoever, right? So you need to be perfecting your role. Whatever you are supposed to do, you do it in the best way possible. And here also, as the Prophet ﷺ used not to laugh, like crack in laughing, used to smile all the time, not to crack in laughing, because the Prophet ﷺ told us that laughing a lot actually kills the heart. We need to be working with others. We should be humble with others. Whenever there is a task that a group of community members are doing, we need to be rolling up our sleeves and working with everyone. There is no one here that is above the Prophet ﷺ. If the Prophet ﷺ used to be doing this, used to be walking with a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, she used to be taking him left and right, used to be going and following the janaiz and so on. So we need to be going on the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ. And we need to be merciful with human beings. We need to be merciful with the animals. We need to be generous, and we need to avoid stinginess. We need to be stopping ourselves from controlling our anger, because the Prophet ﷺ told us to control our anger. We need to be not speaking a lot, and being silent more than we are speaking, because this is how he ﷺ used to be. We need to be accepting the advice. We need to be following the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ in accepting the advice. And most importantly, I would say that, to conclude, our goal here was to shed some lights on the aspects of the life of the Prophet ﷺ that did help in having Muslims build a civilization. We did talk about many aspects. We did talk about how the Prophet ﷺ did address social justice. How did the Prophet ﷺ did address morals? How did the Prophet ﷺ used to live his life? And how did the Prophet ﷺ used to be advising the believers on aspects that are way beyond simply living and worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on their own. How the Prophet ﷺ used to teach the believers how to interact with each other. And if you look at what made Islam great, what made us a great ummah, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. You've been and you will continue to be the best nation that humanity did witness. Why? Because you enjoin the good and you forbid the evil. So I hope and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that whatever we have gone through would benefit all of us, and whatever we have learned from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, we would actually embrace it ourselves, our kids, our families, our wives, in order for us to help make our community a prophetic community, a community that is going on the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ. And subhanAllah, don't say, but our community is nothing compared to the ummah. No. When we can focus on our community, we can make our community a best community ever. Focus on yourself and then your community. And when every one of us would focus on himself to try to make himself going on the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ, to make the people who are surrounding him going on the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ, then the entire situation of the ummah will become better. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be among those people whom whenever they listen to the truth, they follow the best out of it. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. وجزاكم الله خير.